Namaste. I'm going to go ahead and drink my espresso. Okay, we're getting near the end. This is number. Anyway, I don't even count. I think I have 5 more videos to do after this. So today I'm going to go back over some basics. I found a summation, something that I really liked. Sorry, I'm adjusting. Something I really liked from the past, and it's kind of a summation, something that I found, and I worked on a little bit and paraphrased and put together enough that is probably not identifiable as anybody else's. So it's a cooperative. But anyway, nothing like that. Here's the spot. Okay. First thing let's go find that and read it. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to something very basic. Just what is, we've talked about it all this time, but let's wrap it up. And this is a good summation. I cooperated with, there's a Katrine Saraya Prem, a Quora contributor. Then in this, I'll go ahead and give her full credit for this quote. Even though I've paraphrased and changed it, let's give it to her. How's that? Spirit of cooperation. Thank you, Catherine. Saraya Prem. Probably her adopted name, like my name is Hai Yang, which means, actually it means the breeze, the gentle breeze that blows across the ocean. Hai Yang can also mean, with a different character for yang, can also mean ocean. Most people interpret it that way, but when they Chinese see my character, they know that it's not simply ocean. It's talking about, more importantly, the breeze, the gentle breeze, the prevailing, the trade winds blowing across the Pacific. I grew up looking forward to those 80% of the days in Hawaii were trade wind days, and we loved it. That meant that the breeze came off the ocean onto the land, and just beautiful, beautiful. Such a big part of sun and beach is one thing, but when you put the weather together with Hawaii, it's really tough to beat. Never too hot, never too cold. But anyway, let's go. Let's read this. Spiritual awakening is the clear seeing of the true nature of the self. Yes, indeed. That's what we're taught. We want to find out the reality. It's a clear seeing of the true nature of the self. Along with this, there is, in most cases, a kind of initiation, which is the encounter with the void and the fear, and sometimes terror this momentarily brings. These are what I've called before the dark days, before the light, the darkest part of the... I never paraphrase this right. I better look it up. But the darkest part of the night is just before the dawn. And they're talking about this initiation with the void. When I experienced it, I was led to the edge of a precipice, looking down into the void by my teacher, who said, simply jump, and turned and walked away. And the significance took me a long time. I went, hey, don't you want to see this? No, he didn't want to see that. It was all on me at this point. What was happening is that the teacher-student relationship was finished. He'd done what he could to prepare me for this momentous time. And I don't remember experiencing terror looking over the abyss into the void. The terror, if it was close to terror, was the surrendering of the egoic sense of self. You know, kind of your self-defined concept of self and who and what and why you are. And this is cultural, and it's based on experience. You know, people react to you, and then you make judgments about yourself based on people's reactions. People say things to you or about you, or and all these. Your parents, your teachers, your authority figures, always are contributing to this false sense of self. But that's when if there was any terror, it was really not a terror. I didn't experience any terror. It was more of a mourning, just like the passing of any other being in your life. Your grandma, your grandfather, you passed away in front of your eyes. Okay. It feels if you will be completely annihilated, and you will. This egoic structure will. You have to be courageous to inwardly take the step into nothingness, plunging off the abyss into the void. Nothingness. Step into nothingness, no-thingness. In this respect, you have to prepare to give your life to deeply trust. Although when this happens, there tends to be no thought, but just the overwhelming feeling of fear that shakes and rattles you inwardly. No matter how overwhelming it might feel, it is something to pass through. There is some greater intelligence within that in a way carries you forward. And again, I'm sharing this because it's somebody's take, and many of you may experience this. Talk about fear and terror, and no, not for me. But I'd already was preparing to rid myself of all fears, and I think taking that leap. What I remember as before he could even completely turn around, I'd already jumped up soundlessly. I'd already taken that leap. And I knew there was a greater intelligence within, of course, and that did indeed carry me through. There usually follows a process of purification and learning to live in a new way, as well as an ever-deepening understanding of the teachings and the meaning of surrender. That's a powerful. Can I read that again? There usually follows a process of purification and learning to live in a new way, as well as ever-deepening understanding of the teachings and the meanings of surrender. Surrender here, the sentence ends is beautiful because although I wasn't really into the fear part, not in regards to having faith to jump, but consequent to jumping, I landed, as I mentioned before, as a small, on a dirty sidewalk in a gray, overwhelming grayness that dissipated into complete absence of light, to darkness. And there I was, looking down upon myself as a newborn, naked. Sidewalk was cold. Alone. Nature gives us a mother to nurture us at this point. But here you are, the baby Buddha, the infant Buddha. And as far as you can see, as far as you know, no one's looking after you. You're on your own. And I experienced it as a witness, this loneliness, more than I experienced it as the infant. Because the infant, all the infant knows is, where's my warmth? Where's my sustenance? Where's the light? Where's the support? Where's somebody holding me? Where's somebody feeding me? Where's someone who's nurturing me? Okay. And this surrender, I couldn't stress surrender enough. Sorry, I'm wading my way through. I've lost pretty much any concern about how these videos will appear. Just hear my message. Never mind that I'm buttoning buttons, tucking my hat, adjusting my beads. Just finish one last little touch of my espresso. I'm just together with you as friends. That's all. And I like to adjust wrinkles and sit straight, and how's the hat? Okay, and I'm reading again. So let's come up a little bit. It doesn't want to come up. I go up like this and click back there. That's too much. Let me drag it down a little bit. Try again. Okay, now at this point, when you're going to, before you jump, you have to obviously be prepared to give your life and deeply trust. This has happened for me previously. Giving my life means I was 100% focused, devoted, certain that I would do whatever was necessary to awaken from the dream, to be in the bosom, in the breath of life, to be what I've always been, to find the missing, which was never lost. It was never lost. It was in a slumber I had to awaken to what I've forgotten. Awaken to what I've forgotten. And this commitment okay, how come I can't find completely? There's the surrender. Here I am. Okay. There's the surrender. So I was this naked infant, this helpless infant. And they say next that the process can take some time. It took a couple years in my part. This process of purification and learning to live in a new way, an ever deepening understanding of the teachings and the meaning of surrender. Yeah, surrender is a daily activity for me. Surrender to the great unknown. Surrender to the fact that no matter how much I've learned, and I'm going to talk later about some of the things that I have been hitting me so hard, that I have been learning new ways to look at things, new mathematical of all things concept, looking at numbers so huge or so small that it's staggering. Items are either, it's either cosmic or internal on a atomic cellular level. It did take some time, first couple of years. After some years, depending on various factors, even though even though what you truly are is here now in the timeless dimension of being. This is where, for the first couple of years, being the terrible twos, we call them, a toddler, was tough times, because this is when I saw myself as, again, I understood the significance of it. Not as a Buddha, but an immature Buddha who thought that somehow I looked around, it was just darkness, that I must be unique because I had the understanding of what had transpired. I had the deep understanding. I didn't have any means to share or express it. And as I hit after the first couple of years, I remember sharing something immediately that happened, and that was different because I hadn't even realized, just took him to the point of leaping off and not understanding of what had occurred. I shared that. But as I grew in infancy to a toddler, I started feeling unique, special. So, I awakened. And I made the announcement to some close friends, which in 2020 hindsight would never do. I would discourage you. Wait for your maturity. And I've said it before, and I said it again. One Buddha year is about 6 human years. 6, and sometimes 8, depending on my mood. But I think it's closer to 6, that after a first year passes upon taking the leap, the anniversary of taking the leap, you're a 6-year-old. So, but you're a 6-year-old Buddha, not a 6-year-old human being. Well, you are always a human being, but a fully awakened human being. 6-year-old fully awakened human being is much infinitely different than a 6-year-old adolescent, human adolescent. But by 6, I had already known, certainly by 12, the second year, I had already known that I had made some mistakes by sharing prematurely. Because first of all, very few believe you, and it doesn't matter. It never matters. And I'd like to mention here that no one, myself included, no one really knows what happens to you, and except you. When it happens to you, you don't need validation anymore. You didn't need anyone to tell you this is what happened. But it's good to look back and maybe share. Okay, we're talking about the completion of this process is what I call the term enlightenment. So I don't know what that means exactly, what Prem meant by that. Yeah, for me, enlightenment started the moment that I leapt. Okay? That trust, that the death of fear was jumping represented to me. There was no terror, boundless trust, knowing that it had to be done and that I was prepared for consequences, whatever they might be. And at that time, I didn't really understand, okay? You are then living from and as what you have seen yourself to be. The thinking, discursive mind is predominantly still and quiet. You can still use your mind to think if you need to at any time during the following the process of awakening. The ego can try to reassert itself, so ongoing meditation practice is still required to reaffirm your position as awareness. Hey, 2 years, terrible twos, somewhere between 6 and 12, or 8 and 16, depending on what day, what day I'm doing the math. After I proclaimed this to a handful of people, but inside I thought, oh boy, I'm really special. I'm a Buddha now. This is it. My lifelong goal. It's a feeling of accomplishment, I gotta admit. And all these things are egoic. And you had the ego died when you left, when you made the decision to leave, when you decided to leave fear behind, or whatever the order that is for you. Once you've left, it's too late. So you had to either, the fear has to die quickly on the way down, or you had to do some preparation, which I did preparation. So got this spiritual ego, which I have to warn against, was insidious, the most dangerous of all the ego, because now here, ego, so to speak, takes the robe, takes the garment, takes the accomplishments. I'm special. I'm egoless. I'm the Buddha. I'm the great one. I know the Dharma inside and out. I've been exposed to everything that can be known, that is known, has been known, and will be known. And can be known. I've been exposed to all that. I put my fears to rest. I put my hands in trust. I surrender. But remember, this is now meditation practice for a little while during this time. I wasn't doing much formal meditation, sitting, that I've been practicing for closer to 60 years previous to this. I thought, okay, I'm awake, and so I'm 24/7. And I don't know how long I was in this insufferable state. And it didn't help because a handful of people that did believe me kind of put me on a pedestal, and that only increased the danger of the spiritual ego. But at some point I was able to recognize it, I was able to catch it. And the secret here is that to understand, whenever he's understanding, that the very ordinariness of being in the condition, being awakening from the dream, is so ordinary. This is our birthright. This is who we are. We're all either in the awake, or we're in the process of preparation. No matter how many lifetimes, when it's your time, it will happen. And you'll start to see that how ordinary became the most extraordinary word in my vocabulary, the most useful word, other than surrender, because this continuous surrender will keep your karmic debt from accumulating. Surrender. I use the violet consuming flame, and I'm going to talk, and before I wrap this up, about how the violet consuming flame, the one that destroys, that you learn to dump your crap. Give your karma, give it up, let it go. But give it to the violet consuming flame that burns the hottest. Violet is the most powerful light, and karma and material things or whatever you put into the flame will burn cleanly and seamlessly, leaving no residue. There's no ashes left. The heat is so intense that there's no remnants, no reminders. Okay? And this requires surrender. And when people say they're humble, I'm, my culture here where people say, whoa, Chinese people are very humble. And I find that statement kind of incongruous. How can you proclaim? It's like Donald Trump saying he's very smart. Smart people don't tell the world they're smart. Humble people don't tell the world they're humble. So surrender. Surrender all those things that would make you separate, that would be divisive, and just the non-duality. Put non-duality to rest and embrace the oneness. The non of that word. There is no doubt duality. Once you've surrendered the ego, you've surrendered the fear. And she's suggesting here that we need to continue our practice. And it wasn't long after the first couple of years, and once I was done putting the Buddha, the special separation and division, that I had accomplished something. And the extraordinary ordinariness, I love that. The extraordinary ordinariness of being what you've always been. We just were temporarily not aware of it. We're put back in this body, and they bless us in so many ways by taking that awareness, because we have to rediscover, first of all, but it gives us an opportunity to work on our physical karma and our interpersonal karma and our inner dimensional karma, all the karmas we need to work. And she said, she says, you can reaffirm your position as awareness by a continued meditation practice. I meditate between 2 and 4 daily, and find it quite necessary. But she ends this by saying that I feel that even though there may be completion in enlightenment as our true nature is eternal, there is still the possibility of an ever unfolding, limitless potential. This part I love. You don't reach a point and that's it. It's like a flat earther. You go to the end of the earth, it's flat. What happens if you take one more step? Or the end of the universe, the people say the universe is finite. Well, what happens? I always wonder, what happens if you go to the end and then drill a hole? Poke your head out. What's the nothingness? This enveloping the nothingness. It's endless. So this ever unfolding, limitless potential. In the last few minutes, I want to share some of this unlimited potential that's personally occurred to me. First of all, I gotta say, I'm not a math guy. Okay, and then after the Trikaya, after the third level, there's 3 levels of Buddhahood. You're the lover is when you first go off the abyss and you first wake up. And that infant, that dirty little infant, the uncared for, unkempt, on a dirty sidewalk in a gray, surrounded by darkness, was the lover. And I grew. What sustained me, what fed me, what nurtured me was the growing compassion and love, the growing greenness of my heart chakra. The pink light, whatever people see pink, people see green. Green is growth, green is surrounded by green. It's through the heart. And it was through compassion, which is different than love. It's love in its purest sense. It was in compassion for everything and every being. At that time, as I was learning compassion, sometimes I look at the 10 levels of ascension for some Buddhist people, with Buddha being on top and, the devil's down the bottom. But they put animals very low. And I'm going to talk next time about even bugs have a soul. I never quite, Eckhart Tolle, Eckhart Tolle, I think it's Tolle, who is, didn't really float my boat. He said some nice things and be here now and, all that stuff. But I don't know much about his authenticity, but he said something that struck me true. He said, I've lived with many Buddhas during my life, and they've all been cats. And I gotta agree. I have 2 cats, and what I see in them is they don't care about. Well, they want to be fed. They want to be safe. But basically, their life is that moment. If you want to study about being in the moment, watch your cat. If a cat is motivated, if it's hungry, it'll go hunt. Or now, the nature of hunting is coming and chasing you until you feed them. That's the life of the domesticated cat. But when they had a need, then they would have the patience and the ability and the skill to take care of that need. And we too have that same ability to take care of, we have the same responsibilities. We need to eat, we need to take care of our bodies, we need to take care of our health. So we have some responsibilities, not unlike the cat. And sometimes I wonder, domestic cats, yeah, they're fed, but out in the wild, life is tough. Life is short. Life is really tough. It's no less tougher than being a human being. Maybe it's even tougher because we're gifted with the ability to think on things, to try to make plans, to be in the illusion that our brain is anything to us. And it looks like I'm wrapping it up here without really sharing with you this grasp of size, immensity, mathematics, and I'll share that in another of the last remaining 5 videos, how these skills have increased and what awakening has meant to me. Thank you.